You know, when I heard that Doug was going to do his Disneycember and base it off the direct-to-video Disney animated sequels, I thought about maybe doing a response here and there on some of the videos he does. Now, I'm not going to do a response on all of them because, let's face it, when Doug Walker points out positives and negatives about him, he's pretty much on point. But I thought I'd kind of do a response to the first one he did this year, which in which he talked about The Return of Jafar, which was the sequel to the Aladdin movie. Now, Doug was right about a lot of things here. One, when we heard that a sequel to Aladdin was coming out, a lot of us, mainly us boys, were excited as heck because, as Doug said in his first Disneycember several years back, he pointed out that Aladdin was one of the Disney animated films primarily aimed at young boys and men. Why? Because it was more action adventure oriented than Beauty and the Beast or Little Mermaid or stuff like that. So I can understand, Doug's hype and any young boy's hype at that time when you hear, oh, a sequel's coming out, we got to see the sequel. And I can admit that, I can admit having the same kind of disappointment, not so much, and I'm pretty sure it's the same with Doug and everybody else, the same kind of, a little bit of disappointment when I found out that it was going to be direct to video. But the way Disney hyped us up as being the first official direct to home video sequel from an animation standpoint, you couldn't help but get hyped either. You couldn't help but get sucked into that hype as well. And that's what happened with a lot of us. Now, a lot of us may have not really frowned as much as others did. Doug acknowledged, I think, that he kind of frowned a little bit when they saw the trailer. So I admit, I didn't really frown as much on the trailer. I mean, yeah, the animation style, looking back now on it, wasn't the best, they could have done. But, still it was something to know that, hey, we're going to see the further adventures of Aladdin, at least for one movie. Little did we know, though, that this was just going to be the start of many adventures to come for Aladdin. Why do I say that? Because the one thing that Doug pointed out at the end of this was the way the movie ended. Everybody, including him and his brother, were kind of like confused about that until about a week or a few days later when the series came out. And Doug basically pointed out that what they realized then, and what a lot of us probably realized then as well, was, even myself, was The Return of Jafar was nothing more than a movie pilot for the Aladdin series. Because the animation style at times matched up similar to what you saw in the movie. You had the same voice actor who replaced Robin Williams as the genie come back for this. So you had basically a lot of similarity. I mean, you had Abis Mal come back as one of the primary villains in the series. So I can understand a lot of people's frustration looking back on it now, and maybe even then, when you find out that the reason the movie ended the way it did was because it was going to continue on in was the adventures that Aladdin and Jasmine were going to go on by going and seeing the world were going to continue on in the Aladdin series. Now, Doug, if you're listening, I totally understand where you're coming from with a little bit of that disappointment of finding out that this didn't just serve as a sequel to one of Disney's most popular animated movies, I should say, one of Disney's most popular animated movies, but it also was used as a series pilot for the Aladdin series. So I can understand your disappointment when Disney doesn't come out and acknowledge that, but yet for weeks, even before the movie gets released on video, you have these vignettes for the Aladdin series showing up during the Disney afternoon. So I totally get where you're coming from with that. Because the way I look at it, looking back on it now, is if they would have at least at the start of the end credits said, join Aladdin and friends on further adventures, or join Aladdin and friends for further adventures on the Disney afternoon, or something like, if they would have said, at least, if they would have acknowledged Doug at the start of the end credits to, for viewers to follow Aladdin and his friends on further adventures on the Aladdin TV series on the Disney Afternoon and CBS Saturday mornings, I think that would have been a better a thing. I think that would have been a more appropriate thing to do, because then we wouldn't be for at least a few days, maybe a week, if we didn't follow the vignettes or watch the vignettes for the series, scratch our heads and wonder what the heck do they, we wouldn't be scratching our heads going like, why did the movie end this way? Why is Aladdin and Jasmine acknowledging they're going to see the world? Because some of us may have not seen the vignettes, and only seen the movie, and we may have not known about the series. So at least at the end, or at the beginning of the end credits, they should have at least acknowledged that the further adventures of Aladdin and friends will continue in the Aladdin TV series on the Disney Afternoon and CBS Saturday mornings. If they would have done that, fine. We wouldn't have no problem. I'm pretty sure nobody would really have much of a problem, even to this day, with the movie, because of the fact that we know that not only is it historically Disney's first official direct-to-video animated film and a sequel to one of the more popular animated classics, but at least we would know that, hey, this also serves as the pilot to the series. You know what was also kind of disappointing as well, Doug, was the fact that they didn't give it a primetime debut. Every Disney Afternoon series before, and maybe for a couple of times afterwards, got a primetime debut in some shape or form. DuckTales got it, Rescue Rangers got it, Tailspin got it, Goof Troop, Darkwing Duck got it, Goof Troop got it, Bonkers got it, Gargoyles got it 3 ways. They got a primetime debut, they got a direct-to-video premiere for the movie pilot, Awakening, as well as a one-night limited theatrical run. And even Mighty Ducks got it, and I think 101 Dalmatians got it. So basically not to give The Return of Jafar, which, like I said, is not just a sequel to Aladdin, one of the best Disney animated films of all time, and historically Disney's first direct-to-video animated film, as well as the movie pilot, but not to acknowledge it as said movie pilot with even a primetime premiere, maybe a week before the series officially comes out, and acknowledge that this Return of Jafar is not just, like I said, the sequel and the first direct-to-video home animated film for Disney, but to at least in parentheses say that this is the series premiere, the series pilot. To not do that, to not give Return of Jafar a direct, a primetime debut, like all the other Disney Afternoon series got, it doesn't do Disney any favors, because, like I said, you can be a viewer that doesn't see the vignettes for the series and only is hyped up at watching the movie, and then you're wondering, like you said, Doug, why is it ending so abruptly? Why is Aladdin and Jasmine saying they're going to see the world? And then all of a sudden, about a few days later, here comes the series, and then it just dawns on you that, The Return of Jafar was a movie pilot for the series. Disney at least should have acknowledged in some shape or form that that's exactly what it was. But we can't really do anything about that now, can we? I mean, that was like 22 years ago? Can't really do anything about that now. But I will say this, Doug. I will say this in closing. I agree, like I said, with everything you said, but I think I'm one of those few people that actually did get a kick out of it at first. I mean, yeah, I don't watch it as much anymore. I mean, heck, if I do put it on an Aladdin movie, I put on King of Thieves and the original Aladdin movie. Those are the 2 that I watch. The second one, I'll probably watch on occasion here and there, but again, like I said, I think it would have served better. I think it would have served Disney better off if not only did they acknowledge, like I said, that this was going to be a sequel to Aladdin, that this was not just going to be historically the first official direct-to-video animated film, but I think it would have served them better if they would have also said, oh, by the way, this is the pilot for the Aladdin series. At least people would be not just more hyped to go out and buy it to see the first official episode of Aladdin, even in direct-to-video form, but it would get them hyped to tune in the following Saturday on CBS and the following Monday on the Disney Afternoon in syndication and watch the Aladdin series. And it would give them more of an idea of how this series came about, why, at least, Aladdin and Jasmine at the end of the movie acknowledge, we're going to go and see the world. At least they have a better idea and perspective. So overall, though, I thought it was okay. I mean, looking back at it, I think it's okay. I think it's still all right, but only as a movie pilot now, not as a sequel, but as a movie pilot. And one thing we do have to point out, Doug, and I don't know if you did point this out, was when it came out, it became one of the highest grossing home videos, animation wise and Disney wise, in history at that time. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty good company to keep, even if you're even if you're first for Disney. That's pretty good company for Disney to keep, because or to have, because you know, even if your first historically direct-to-video animated film is not just a sequel, but more primarily a movie pilot for your new animated series on the Disney Afternoon and Saturday mornings. I mean, because think about this. Do you think when they put out Tailspin a few years before, the Plunder and Lightning movie pilot, do you think if they just would have put that direct-to-video, and everything, that people would be like, oh, it's just a Disney movie direct-to-video, that's it? Think when Plunder and Lightning the movie pilot ended, that fans would have had an acknowledgement of something. There's got to be more to it, but they don't hear anything until maybe a few months later in September of 1990. And all of a sudden, here's this Tailspin series. Don't you think they'd be like, oh, there is a series? Why didn't they tell us this? I'm just saying. Do you think they feel a little disappointed with, with Plunder and Lightning ending just the way it did and not hearing anything up until maybe a month later, and then all of a sudden here's the Tailspin series? Of course they feel a little disappointed. Because it's like, well, wait a minute, why didn't they tell us it was going to have a series? I'm just saying. So, like I said, despite those flaws for the Return of Jafar, I thought it was okay. I think it serves more well now as a movie pilot, a two-part movie pilot. Because, heck, they proved they can already do this with the two-part episode Seems Like Old Crimes. So why couldn't they do this with the Return of Jafar? Heck, why couldn't they premiere the series, even in syndication during the regular Disney Afternoon run, by splitting the Return of Jafar into 2 or 3 parts? I don't understand. I mean, heck, they continued the freaking Jafar story in a crossover with Hercules. I don't get that. Why couldn't they just show this? I mean, why couldn't they make this a 3-part pilot? I don't get it. But again, it is what it is, and we just got to deal with it. But Doug, I know you're doing a lot of direct-to-video sequels and even some non-direct-to-video Disney movies, animation-wise. I know you're going to hit Gargoyles Awakening, and Gargoyles the movie, and Mighty Ducks the movie soon. So, and maybe even Dalmatian Vacation, which was a VCD exclusive. So, I do wish you luck. I really do. But in response, I will say that I was okay with it. I was all right with it. I thought the movie was all right as a sequel at the time. But now I think it's okay just as a pilot for the series, a movie pilot for the series, if not a 2 to 3 part series premiere for the series. So, that's really all I'm going to say, Doug, in response. I know this went a little longer than your take on the Return of Jafar in your first episode of Disneycember. Wish you the best of luck. And hopefully I'll be back with another response down the line to another one of yours. So take care, guys. Take care, Doug. And I'll talk to you later.